I recently came to the realization that there are a lot of people out there making a lot of content, and there's no way I can consume all of it and get my own work done. If you're creative of any kind, if you write, if you make movies, if you make music, how do you balance the need to set aside time to do your own work with the desire to support other creatives and their work? It can be overwhelming if you're an author struggling to finish up your book, but you're constantly getting requests from other authors to review their books to boost their Amazon rankings. If you're a singer and you're trying to record an album, how do you find time to go into the studio when other musicians are constantly asking you to come out to their shows to support them? For a filmmaker who's trying to finish up editing an indie film to meet a film festival deadline, how do you get that done when other filmmakers are constantly asking you to help out on their projects? Many of us artists want to support other artists and feel that we're part of a community. We want to feel that we're giving and not just taking. But how do you get over that feeling of guilt and overwhelm when you don't have enough time to do your own work, let alone support people and their work? And if you're like me, you feel an obligation to stay up on the news and be an informed citizen, and also just kind of stay current with what's going on in pop culture, so you don't sound out of touch and clueless when you're talking to people. As noble as these intentions are, I recently came to the realization that there are a lot of people out there making a lot of content, and there's no way I can consume all of it and get my own work done. So here are 3 tips to try to find a balance between being a content creator and a consumer. Number 3, mix it up. In the immortal words of that poet known as Bobby Brown, ain't nothing wrong with spreading myself around. There's a lot of podcasts and YouTube channels that I follow, and I want to support these creators, especially creators of color. I love watching the Black on Black Cinema channel, which is reviews of black movies. I love following the Two Funny Mamas podcast with Sherry Shepherd and Kim Whitley. There are many, many podcasts out there. I'm learning Spanish, and I love to listen to podcasts about Spanish language and Latin culture. And I want the people who make these podcasts, I want my fellow content creators to get the clicks and the views and the listens and the downloads, and I want to be part of supporting them. A lot of these content creators, they put out multiple episodes every week or at least every month, and I finally realized that I'm not going to be able to listen to or watch every episode. So what I'll do is I'll listen to 1 or 2 podcasts one week, and then I'll kind of rotate, and the next week I'll listen to another podcast or 2. So you may not get a deep dive on every single podcast. You may not catch every episode of every podcast or YouTube channel that you follow, but you'll be able to dip your head in often enough to where you feel like you're kind of keeping up with the content creators that you want to support, and you're able to follow their content. And another thing I do is a rotating tip jar. Some of these content creators have cash apps or buy me a coffee kind of apps where you can kind of leave them a tip to help support what they're doing. And every month I'll kind of rotate which ones I'll leave a tip for. And it's not a whole lot of money. It's maybe $5 or $10. But just think, if every person who listened to their podcast or watched their YouTube channel left them a tip, that would be a substantial amount of money. Number 2, set limits. Try either setting a limit for the amount of content that you will consume each week. Say I'll only listen to, 5 or 10 hours of content that doesn't have anything to do with what I do. So I'm a writer and a filmmaker, and I'll say I'll only listen to 5 to 10 hours of podcasts that have nothing to do with writing or filmmaking. Or better yet, say I'm going to aim for consuming at least 5 or 10 hours of educational content that will help me excel in my field. Tutorials about writing, YouTube videos showing you how to make movies. Set a goal to consume a certain amount of hours of instructional content each week. I recently started keeping a log of all the hours that I listen to content every week, and I found that even working a day job, 40 hours a week, I have a lot of passive listening time, whether it's driving to and from work or running errands or making dinner, cleaning up after dinner, all those minutes add up. There have been weeks where I've gotten up to like 10 or 20 hours combined with, 5 minutes here while I'm eating lunch, listening to a tutorial on filmmaking, or an hour driving, being stuck in traffic and driving to and from a destination, listening to a podcast about authors talking about how they market their work. So little increments of time can really add up if you set a goal of taking in a certain amount of educational and instructional content related to your field every week. Number 1, do a weekly roundup. And this is sort of related to number 3. So what I've started doing is I will limit consumption of news. I'm a political junkie, but I will limit my consumption of news that doesn't have anything to do with writing or filmmaking during the week, like Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, really. And then kind of on the weekends, I'll do a roundup of going and watching back editions or videos that I've been wanting to watch all week of different shows that I normally follow, like MSNBC clips or CNN clips, or I'll go read a whole bunch of New York Times articles that I've been wanting to read throughout the week so I can keep myself up to date on politics. And that kind of helps limit my consumption, because normally when I consume that kind of news or political content throughout the week, I fall into a rabbit hole. And it's like, okay, just one more MSNBC clip or just one more New York Times article, and I'll look up and an hour or two will have gone by with me kind of not so much wasting time, but consuming a lot of content that really isn't going to move me forward, other than, making me an informed person or making me be able to talk about a given topic that really doesn't have anything to do with something that's going to make me money or move me forward in life. So if you set aside time each week and just kind of make that your time to catch up on everything, you'll find that not only do you have time to catch up on all the things that you need to keep you informed, you'll also find that a lot of the clips, especially on YouTube, that you think are going to be like juicy content, they end up being really repetitive. And a lot of the clips, they're like clickbait. If you actually click on them, they're really not that interesting. The commentators are actually not saying anything that is earth-shattering or something that you couldn't miss. And if you limit that to just once a week, you'll really find that you're able to kind of stay on top of things and not miss a whole lot. And trust me, if something really big happens, like a volcano eruption or a big terrorist attack or an alien invasion, there is no way that you can miss that. Even if you're not keeping up with the news, if something really huge is happening in society, you'll hear about it through word of mouth, unless you live alone in a cabin in the woods all by yourself and never go out. To recap, number 1, do a weekly roundup. Set aside no more than an hour each week to catch up on news and entertainment. Number 2, set time limits. Number 3, mix it up. Make a list of your favorite podcasts, YouTube channels, etc., and pick 1 or 2 episodes a week to consume. So keep in mind, even following these suggestions, there is never going to be a perfect balance. There are going to be times where you feel guilty for staying home and keeping your head down and doing your own work, and you can't make it out to your friend's concert or their book signing or their movie premiere. And conversely, there are going to be times where you feel guilty and frustrated because you couldn't find time to do your own work because you were running around breaking your neck trying to run out and support everybody else. That's just kind of how life goes. So just kind of do your best to try to set limits on the amount of time that you consume content that's not related to your field, and just try to stay as consistent as possible, and don't beat yourself up if you have a bad week or a really busy day and you don't get around to meeting your goals, or you end up vegging out and kind of falling into a YouTube rabbit hole and watching a lot of junk. That's just kind of how it goes. You only have so much energy, and there are only so many hours in a day. As a wise person once said, time is a non-renewable resource. And often we have to make tough choices in life. So why not choose yourself? If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.